If you doubt it so far, I have good news for you. Our favorite dojo is returning to the big screen. Not only will Karate Kid be back, but it will return in the real shape, the one we remember from 1984, the real face of the franchise. So stay with me until the end, as I have some really exciting news to share with you. Now, let's kick off with a short recap. If you're a fan of Karate Kid, then most likely you're a Cobra Kai fan as well. And if you're following every form of this incredible franchise, you're probably wondering if there's any connection between the hit Netflix series and the new movie. Let me make it easier for you. There is not. In fact, even John Hurwitz tweeted recently, "The guys and I would love to make Karate Kid and Cobra Kai movies and hope to someday. But this one isn't from us or focused on the Cobra Kai cast. Don't know much about it, but wish it well." Fair enough. The franchise is a creation of Robert Mark Kamen, and the original film series began as a tetralogy, but the last we remember is definitely the remake from 2010. Although I don't know if we can really call it Karate Kid, taking in mind that it's focused on Kung Fu. A Kung Fu Kid, maybe? Well, anyway, watching this movie, the memories will come back, which is a compliment in a way. The original story, the one from 1984, was durable enough to inspire 3 sequels, and in the remake, we've got 56-year-old Jackie Chan in the role of Mr. Miyagi, but somewhere in China. The original was one of its year's best movies. While in this one, there aren't many surprises, it lacks the perfect freshness that the first movie got, as it follows the 1984 version almost point by point. But even after all that, I can say that we got one well-made and lovely movie that stands on its own feet. The characters are once again engaging, the Chinese locations add visual interest, and there are some scenes on the Great Wall and scenes of splendor in the mountains, which, all in all, makes it a good product. The Oscar-nominated performance by Pat Morita was the original film's greatest asset, but let's not forget this movie had Jackie Chan in it. His charm comes from a self-kidding quality. But here, he did a great job by keeping his cards hidden and cooling down his usual cheerfulness. The kid character was a bit different. Dre Parker is hitting that like button just like you should do if you haven't done so already. No, really, he's much calmer than Daniel LaRusso, and he's much smaller than his opponents, which makes his fear of a bully at school more realistic. I think this is the moment that makes you forget the 1984 movie and start enjoying this one. You know, that point where you say, that was then, this is now. The story was similar. It follows a kid packed up by his divorced mother, moving from Detroit to Beijing, forced to leave his friends and hometown and move far away. There's a cute girl that makes life look more promising, and of course, a bully. But this time, not Zabka. And without even saying it, you'd know that the whole film leads up to a climatic kung fu tournament. You'd ask, why are we talking about the previous movie now? Well, it's been announced that Karate Kid 2 will be in this style, a real Miyagi-verse. Now, let's talk about the release date. We didn't even have the time to share our opinions on Cobra Kai Season 5, and Sony has announced that a new Karate Kid movie is already on the way. Just a week after the 5th season was released, the studio had an official announcement. The upcoming movie is set to hit the theaters on June 7th, 2024. In addition to that, Sony has stated that the new installment will continue the original franchise. The original franchise kicked off back in 1984, with Ralph Macchio as a lead actor, along with Pat Morita, and of course the bad boy William Zabka. The original movie was followed by The Karate Kid 2, the second movie released in 1986. Here, Mr. Miyagi and Daniel are heading to Okinawa, where Daniel comes up against Yuji Okamoto in the role of Chosen Toguchi. Macchio and Morita returned once again for the third Karate Kid movie, and these movies are named what's now dubbed as the Miyagi-verse. In 1994, Sony brought us the next Karate Kid, and here, instead of Daniel, Mr. Miyagi takes on a new student. And to all of that, we can now add Macchio's book, Waxing On, The Karate Kid and Me, where he takes readers behind the scenes of that seminal movie. It was a combination of things. I remember being asked a couple of years ago if I would ever write about the experiences of making The Karate Kid and the untold stories behind the scenes. And that got me thinking, but I didn't quite know how to organize it. Then, with the birth of Cobra Kai and seeing the multi-generational interest from kids, 12 to 14-year-old kids, to people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, and families, I just said, "Boy, I have an interesting story," said Macchio when asked about what motivated him to write his memoir. Okay, now let's talk about the possible plot of the new movie and the theories that circle around the fans. First of all, the Miyagi prequel. And please take in mind this is not a fan theory, this is an idea that comes from Ralph Macchio himself. Mr. Miyagi has a rich backstory that includes his involvement in the Japanese internment camps in the US and his service in World War II. Taking in mind that this is the story that elevated the franchise, it's not a surprise that Macchio has been vocal over the years about Morita's impact on the whole franchise. Morita passed away in 2005, and sadly, his legacy has been a through line of the popular Netflix show Cobra Kai. In his latest interview for Screen Rant, and related to this topic, Macchio smashed that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. No, really. In all seriousness now, he said, whether it be in front of it, or on the periphery, or just involved in some way, because I was there from the beginning with these characters, I would love to be included in a spin-off. And there are those discussions going on, although it is not a solidified idea or production at this point. Again, it's nothing official, it's just an idea. There is one more theory that says this movie will be a total wild card. You'd ask, why? Well, Schlossberg, Heald, and Hurwitz defined and built the Miyagi-verse with Cobra Kai, but if this movie is not their project, then what will happen? There is a possibility that Karate Kid 2 will be a sequel to Jackie and Jaden's Redux. Since the first film came out, there have been rumors circulating around that theory. I wouldn't be surprised to hear news like that, taking in mind that Karate Kid 2010 earned a global box office of $359 million. Do you know what that makes? Exactly. More than all the first 4 films combined. There is one more thing that we might know. Will Smith will probably be the producer. He was a producer on the 2010 movie, an executive producer for Cobra Kai, and he's listed as the producer on IMDb of this movie as well. Either way, IMDb's listings are not written in stone, so until the project actually comes to fruition, we'll always have a doubt. Before we go, I'd like to share one more theory that says Karate Kid 2 will be something completely new, another Redux with completely new cast members. Initially, Robert Mark Kamen, the writer of the original film trilogy, envisioned a completely different version of the Karate Kid Part 3. He suggested an idea where Mr. Miyagi and Daniel travel to 16th century China in a dream. We'll see what happens. And what about you? What do you think will be the main focus of the new movie? Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.